Welcome to Practical Yoga. We will begin today's practice in child's pose, so no one can see me cry. So knees as wide as feels comfortable, and then melt your face into a blanket or your mat or the dirt or a toilet bowl and just let it all out. My country is the world's terrorist. Very good, and rising back up, we will find our way into Malasana, our yogi squat. So rock back onto your heels. Place your hands in Anjali Mudra, placing just a little bit of pressure between your knees. And maybe you lost your home and your job during COVID and you are shitting in the street. So take a deep breath in. And maybe somebody gives you $1 and you reach for that dollar. Good. Someone gives you another $1, lucky day, and you reach for that $1. Very good. And now we will roll on up into mountain pose so we can transition into eagle. Now place all of your weight onto your right leg, wrapping your left around your right once or twice, wrapping your left arm around your right once or twice, and sinking deeply into that right leg, as if you are shielding your face and stomach from an ice beating. Very good. This also protects the genitals. Very good. Now I know that this exposes the back of the head and the kidneys, but what's it really matter when they're probably just gonna shoot you anyway? And come on up out of that. And before we repeat this pose on the second side, go ahead and just slap yourself in the face. So slap yourself in the face, slapping yourself in the face. I like to do this to inflict a little pain, helps me forget the other stuff. You can even make a fist if you'd like. Very good. And I usually end my practices in corpse pose, but many of us are not that lucky yet. So let's go ahead, find a comfortable position, and we will do a little breathing exercise that hopefully allows us to lose consciousness. So exhale all of your air out of your body. And then just rapid exhale as fast as you can. You may need to cover your nose and mouth. If you liked this video, please subscribe. In our next class, we will go straight into a headstand and see if we can break our necks. Namaste.
So there's been a shocking development in the Jeffrey Epstein saga, and it's almost conclusive proof. It's as close to conclusive proof, I guess, as we can ever get that he's not dead. Jeffrey Epstein had his prostate removed. And how do we know? Because it's in the Epstein files. Here it is. You have high testosterone and still have a need for Viagra because you don't have a prostate, right? Jeffrey Epstein. Correct. So he didn't have a prostate. Here's another one. A patient Epstein, Jeffrey. This is from LabCorp. This is in the files. It says after radical prostatectomy, he had a radical prostatectomy. This is from the autopsy of Jeffrey Epstein. His bladder had 5 milliliters of cloudy yellow urine. The prostate is slightly and diffusely enlarged with marked enlargement of the vermilabitanum. The testes are unremarkable. Boy, you don't want to hear that about your testes, do you? Grok, is it possible to grow a replacement prostate? Grok says no. It's currently not possible to grow a full replacement prostate gland for clinical use in humans. While research has made impressive progress in understanding prostate regeneration and creating lab-grown models, no technology exists today to produce a transplantable, fully functional human prostate replacement suitable for implantation. So no. If Jeffrey Epstein autopsy notes the health of his prostate, but it's known that he had previously had it removed, then he either miraculously grew a new one or that wasn't his body. There's really no other conclusions to be had. I agree with you, Awakened Outlaw. I agree with you. He didn't have a prostate, and the body that went through the autopsy did have a prostate, conclusively proving that that is not Jeffrey Epstein's body that they showed us. Jeffrey Epstein is 100% still alive. I'm going to go with 100%.
You are live, Jimmy Dore.
Hi, we've got Max Blumenthal coming up at the 5 o'clock hour. We have Scott Ritter coming up in just a half hour. But right now, I want to show you this. Jim Carrey received an award in France. It's like the equivalent of their Oscar. And so I just want to show you. This is supposed to be him after he received his award. Now you tell me if this guy behaves, acts, talks, tells jokes, or even looks like Jim Carrey. You tell me.
It's a wonderful feeling. I really took on a pretty big challenge trying to do my speech in French. So, I wrote it and I researched it and I practiced it like crazy. But, it's, then I watched everybody like talking 1,000 miles an hour up there, receiving their awards. And I was like, I'm dead.
Okay, Jim Carrey never does that. He never tells a lame joke and then laughs at his own joke. He never does that. That's not how
he do weirder shit than that.
That's not how he acts at award ceremonies. He mocks them. In fact, here I'll show you. Here's him mocking the awards at the Golden Globe. Watch this.
Our solar system. I am 2-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey. When I go to sleep at night, I'm not just a guy going to sleep. I'm 2-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey, going to get some well-needed shut-eye. And when I dream, I don't just dream any old dream. No, sir. I dream about being 3-time Golden Globe winning actor Jim Carrey, because then I would be enough. It would finally be true. And I could stop this terrible search for what I know ultimately won't fulfill me. But these are important, these awards. I don't want you to think that just because if you blew up our solar system alone, you wouldn't be able to find us or any of human history with the naked eye. But from our perspective, this is huge.
It's huge. So that's how he was mocking the importance of.
But this is a French award, Jimmy.
But so now here he is at another award show, even more recent.
A lot of fashion weeks. This is the first time I've run into Jim Carrey. Wait, tell me, is it true you're wandering the streets? You need a date to the party? What's up?
No. I'm doing just fine. I just, there's no meaning to any of this. So I wanted to find the most meaningless thing that I could come to and join, and here I am.
They're celebrating.
You got to admit it's completely meaningless.
Well, they say they're celebrating icons inside.
Celebrating icons, boy, that is just the absolute lowest aiming, possibility that we could come up with. It's like icons. Do you believe in icons? I don't believe in personalities. I don't believe that you.
So that's how he feels about icons and award. So for them to give him an award in France, so this is like
a new forehead.
It's like a lifetime. They not only gave him this new award, they gave him a new forehead. They gave him new eyes.
Well,
they gave him a new
Star Trek alien.
They gave him a new personality. Because that's not how he acts. That's how he acts. He doesn't act like he acted in this. That is not how he acts. In fact, this is what Jim Carrey looks like. This is what he looked like at that award. People are saying, well, he had face work. He had eye work. Well, when you do get eye work, does it change your eyes from brown to blue? Because this guy has blue eyes. Do you really think Jim Carrey, a guy who gives a shit about Hollywood, gives a shit about any of that stuff, actually went and he's wearing colored contact lenses, and then he got a facelift and he got Botox? I'm finding this very, very hard to believe. That is not Jim Carrey's eyes. That's not.
I didn't notice the eye color at all until you just pointed out.
There it is. Look at this. Those eyes are blue. These eyes are brown. Jim always had, and no matter what light you're in. So do you really think Jim Carrey is? So if that's Jim Carrey,
sent this double.
What's that?
What company? So Jim Carrey didn't want to go to France for his award.
So he did not want to go.
And they had this guy from
somewhere. And so what makes me think that? First of all, and here's another. So these aren't his teeth.
Oh my God.
So. This is what he looked like a year ago on his birthday. That's what he looked like a year ago on his birthday. Okay.
Wait.
So just notice that Jim Carrey is lefty, and he always does lefty.
Sign his autograph? There are 3 details that suggest he's not the real Jim Carrey. First, he used his right hand to sign autographs for fans, but it's well known that the real Jim Carrey is left-handed, and he himself has confirmed this in interviews. Whether writing or casually holding things in public, Jim Carrey always uses his left hand, as it's an ingrained habit. The impersonator might have learned the appearance, but overlooked this small detail. Secondly, his appearance is drastically different from Jim Carrey's. The real Jim Carrey has his signature neat, short hair with a relaxed facial structure that exudes energy, even without exaggerated expression.
I don't care about that. But here he is. What is this? Oh, wait, I want to show you this. So I want to show you this. Here he is on David Letterman a few years ago. Hustle Bitch got this.
Now, we were talking about Jim's problem with the as he calls them, the stalkerazzi.
This is the
phrase
that I've coined.
They stalk you. He coined that. He came up with that.
Yeah.
So how do you handle it? What is the solution? Because a lot of folks would be interested in this. What do you do?
I've done this a few times now, and it's using a decoy.
I'm sorry, a decoy?
Using a decoy. It sounds so ridiculous, but it works like a charm.
Like a double.
It's fantastic.
Like a Jim Carrey double.
A Jim Carrey double.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing.
So what I do is I send him off in one direction, sucks all the press in that direction, and I can just have my day. And
whatever you want to do.
Wherever I want, totally unmolested. It's fantastic.
Right.
And,
well, they say the best ideas are the simplest ones, and this really couldn't be more simple.
It really is amazing.
I'm sure it works.
really works.
So there he is admitting that he's used a body double in the past. So I think it's almost 100% certainty that he's punking the people in France giving him this award, because that is not Jim Carrey.
Because the detail of the eye color is, I didn't see it until just now, but that almost sounds like you get one where I leave a clue that if they could spot it if they want, like that seems like him.
Jim Carrey shows up on Fashion Week on a red carpet mocking how vacuous it is and how meaningless it is and how pointless it is, and then he would go use colored contact. So that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. Although it could be one of these. Have you ever seen this? Turn down. So they have these masks out there. The CIA has had them for decades. Since at least the early 90s, somebody in George Bush the first, his cabinet, a woman wore a mask and she went into a meeting and he didn't know the difference. So these are the kind of masks they can do. And they say that Joe Biden there was definitely more than, you can turn it up now. There was definitely more than one Joe Biden. We've pointed that out.
Jimmy, what'd you just say? I couldn't hear none of it because that TikTok music was so fucking loud. But what were you just saying about that mask?
Oh, no, I'm saying that the CIA has had these masks for decades. And that somebody inside George Bush, the first cabinet, wore a mask to a meeting and he couldn't tell the difference. So the CIA's been doing this. And so Joe Biden, there's definitely been two Joe Bidens. And here's someone, watch this. Tell me if this isn't a guy wearing one of those CIA masks.
North Carolina. And he was a very conservative guy.
So he goes to scratch his neck.
Oh my gosh, that's a mask.
And there it is.
Holy cow.
You tell me that's not a mask.
No, he just says really.
Do you see this, Kurt?
And he was a very conservative guy who was very, very...
Oh my gosh, that's a mask.
So he's itching himself right where the mask go. And he's like, I got an itch under this mask. And he screwed up. So
he's dead. The guy's dead, probably. He's been dead for some time. Is that what I'm getting from this? And they used an auto pen, but Trump's not going to do any.
So some people are saying that because he did this on Jimmy Kimmel. So now he kept doing this, and he says it's a symbol of the Illuminati. And I've been told, I can't confirm this, but there's serious rumors out there, and I've been told that they dubbed in audience laughter after they shot this because it was so awkward. So let's watch it, and just keep in mind that it's a good possibility that the laughter you're going to hear now has been dubbed in.
Like you don't know what it is. You don't know what that is.
I have no idea.
You don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't know.
We don't know.
All the comics and show business don't know what this is. Right? Yeah.
What is it?
Come on, Jimmy. Seriously, the time is up. People are hip to this kind of stuff. I'm here tonight to blow the lid off it, to be the whistleblower. I'm sick and tired of the secrets and the lies. It is the secret symbol of the Illuminati, and you're a part of it, and it is the all-mocking tongue.
Oh, I like it.
It's the symbol of the all-mocking tongue. And I'm sick of it. I want everybody to be in on the joke, man. You know what I mean? For years now, talk show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile so you don't know what's really going on. You know? And they get out there in the woods in a circle naked and they decide these things. And, you know, and you know, look at him trying to cover it up. It's hilarious, hilarious.
Now, it's also very possible that he was just doing a joke, that he was just trying to mock people who think there's some big conspiracy in Hollywood. I don't know. I'm not saying, I don't know if that laughter's real. I don't know if it's there. I know he did this. Why would he do that? Where's Kurt? What happened? We lose him?
Stepped out.
Okay, I guess we lost Kurt. So there's just no way that. But here's his PR people saying that it was really him. This is what they say. The actor's longtime publicist tells TMZ Jim Carrey attended the Caesar Awards where he accepted the honorary Caesar Award. The general delegate of the Caesar Award told Variety that Jim had planned on attending the award show since the summer and had prepared for months to give his speech in French. He attended the show with his partner, his daughter, his grandson, publicist, and 12 close friends and family. That's according to his publicist. That's according to TMZ. I'm telling you, that's not Jim. That guy did it. Even if you said, okay, he got face work. Hey, he's wearing colored contact lenses. That is not how Jim Carrey acts about receiving an award. He doesn't make lame jokes and then laugh at them himself. None of that is happening. That's not how he talks. He's not in awe of show business. He's not in awe of awards. He doesn't believe in icons. And so he was basically receiving an icon award from France. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. So I'm saying that's not him. And Jim Carrey, I think, is pulling a big joke on everybody. Just like he told David Letterman that he has a body double that he uses. So what's this?
This is weird.
I don't need to go there. Is Kurt not coming? Okay, he's here. So anyway, I say that's not Jim Carrey. What do you think? Well, let me know in the comments. You don't think that's him, do you, Kurt? Kurt, can you hear me? I don't think Kurt can hear me. Anyway, if you'd like to, Kurt, can you hear me?
He's setting it up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God.
You don't think that's him, do you? You don't think that was him, do you?
What? Which one? The guy with the blue eyes? No, I'm going to say probably wasn't. Before my laptop conked out. It wasn't the Illuminati.
Did you see that him on David Letterman saying he uses a body double?
Oh yeah. I saw a part.
Yeah.
Here, there's a video of him on Norm Macdonald's show with Adam that Adam didn't remember, and I think it's way weirder than any of these. He's telling them about the Christ secretion. Do you have that video?
No.
I'll send it to you.
That's
So he's talking. Yeah.
So what do you think?
Norm's like, what?
So what do you think is going on?
Well, I mean, that body double in France, it could be a million things, but the most likely thing to me is he didn't want to go to that, and he thought it'd be funny to send a guy that's not Jim Carrey, or they got a Jim Carrey, say, yeah, use a double, I don't care. Now, I haven't seen him lately. Like, is the real Jim Carrey going to show up and then have blue eyes? And I don't know if that's a joke, but he is into some weird shit. He was talking about this Christ secretion thing where I'm going to try to find a video. You should play it because he is involved in esoteric stuff. This thing is called it's a mudra, I mean, in Buddhism and whatever. And it's a way to change your inner world to like a different thing. So if you're nervous, you see famous people doing like this hand sign, or they've got the down, and people go, that's Illuminati. Well, maybe it is, but it's also a Hindu and Buddhist thing where you're changing your inner who you are for the moment, and it's like to reset yourself. Okay. it's also the eye of the triangle of manifestation. So when Jay-Z does it, and he's playing up the Illuminati thing, there's marketing for him too. But this is a cultic to the triangle of manifestation is like you make it the world you want. So he was telling Norm Macdonald this crazy stuff about how if I say it sounds too crazy, you got to see.
Just tell me it. No, just tell me it. I don't have time.
It's a secretion that comes down your spine, and like like if you hold in your if you hold some semen retention, it goes back up. Christ goes to heaven, and then the colostrum or some part of your brain. That's where we get Santa Claus from. I don't know if it's true or not what he's saying, but it was nuts, and he's clearly into stuff with harvesting fluids.
So this guy here, seems like Jim Carrey if he got declawed, because that's not
Hollywood Boulevard. It's like Hollywood Boulevard, dude.
Watch this.
Oh, it's a wonderful feeling. I really took on a pretty big challenge trying to do my speech in French.
So Jim Carrey always has kind of like a feral aggression, and this guy looks like a cat that got declawed. That's how he's behaving and acting. He's too nice. He's like a cat that got declawed. He's too nice.
Well, if you hire a double, Jimmy, and it's for France, aren't you going to be like, not give that much of a shit? Because you're like, they're French. They don't fucking know. Right?
Right. I bet you.
I thought they love him in France, so they wouldn't know.
Well, they love Jerry Lewis, so it would make sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you want to come see me make jokes about this, come see me in San Antonio, Albuquerque, Houston, Dallas, Salt Lake City, LA Comedy Store. That ticket link is coming soon. Las Vegas, Tulsa, and Oklahoma City. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. Over to Steph.
Okay. Listen, we've been reading all your sentiments about this new world war that's happening. And, I remember during the election for president, everybody was like, oh, we should have a female. We finally could have a female. It was Kamala Harris. Little did we know we're going to get Miriam Adelson. So we've got Miriam.
Whoever you vote for, you get Miriam Adelson.
Yeah, no matter who you vote for, you get Miriam Adelson with her big bucks. Back to Jimmy.
So here I want to show you this.
This is bad.
So look, that's Kelly Osbourne, and I think she looks fantastic. She looks great, and only some sick showbiz beauty standard would make her feel inadequate here. But I'm sure her mother's being very supportive and healthy influence on her. Because here they are coming out at this Actors Lifetime Achievement Award. So that's her now. So that's what she looks like now. That's
natural.
That's what she looks like now. And they both look fantastic.
So beautiful.
When you say you're a chip off the old block, that they don't mean you should get out a chisel and actually start chipping away, right? For what you want to go from plump grandma to museum display mummy, try Ozempic.
This is so upsetting, Jimmy.
I like a woman who shows everything, including all of her ribs and veins.
Look at this. She looks like she was liberated from the camps.
Well, here's another better. So there she is when she had her.
No.
And this is what she looks like now. So that's an Ozempic face.
Yeah.
And they try to tell you that, they try to say, no, she's just mourning. She's in mourning. That's why she lost all this weight, because her father died. That's why she's mourning. Really? So when you mourn, when I mourn, what I like to do is put on a $10,000 gown, 6-inch heels, and then go to an award ceremony and present an award. That's how I mourn.
Well, first I don't eat for 3 months. So
right.
I really make an impression.
So.
Oh, that's so bad, man.
So people don't understand what's going on here. To avoid feeling like a Hollywood leftover, she just got this new vacuum sealer to keep fresh for the next morning. That's what that is.
Well, you take the plastic off and she fills right back out like a mattress.
Yes, that's like that. Here's what some people are saying. She had struggled and been demonized for her weight forever. I remember watching the Osbournes on MTV, and she would cry about it. That type of harassment has caused some body dysmorphia, and adding her father's death, I can imagine it has pulled a toll on her. I hope she does get help and someone steps in.
I'm not making the connection here between starving to death and Ozzy passing away.
Me neither.
I don't really get that.
This guy says she did a post a while back, and she was yelling at people for saying she was too skinny, and she said it wasn't because of Ozempic, it was because of her dad's death. So who knows what's up with her, but clearly she needs help. Southern Belle says, well, her mom is standing right there. Why doesn't she intervene and get Kelly the help she so desperately needs?
It looks like that movie, The Witches, with the Roald Dahl movie, you know, about you ever see it? Where
No.
The witches got, and when they turn the kid into a mouse, like a famous children's book. It looks like what they look like.
Here's another one. She is grieving. She will get through this. Let her breathe. People mocking her is sad. She has a child she loves, and I pray to God she doesn't pay mind to the people on the internet enjoying watching her break.
Well, I'm not enjoying this.
Nobody's mocking her. It's called concern. Understand the difference. I 100% believe you. I agree with that. Nobody's mocking her. Nobody's mocking her.
This is her sock puppet account saying this?
I guess. We feel bad for her. Grok says Kelly Osbourne rocked bold purple hair back in 2012 as her signature fun style. Fast forward 14 years to 2026 at the Brit Awards, that was just on the 28th, where she and Sharon accepted Ozzy's Lifetime Achievement Award. She's now blonde with the short bob, bangs, after major weight loss and evolving her look over time. Natural aging plus celeb style shifts do that. That's not natural aging. That's not what that
aging?
is.
What?
This is not natural. That's not natural aging.
I don't even see the same person. That doesn't even look like the same person.
I know. And Grok says she's rocking. She's not right. She shouldn't be rocking anything because she's going to snap.
Yeah. But Grok, I hate when Grok tries to talk like a person to me. It really is irritating.
It is irritating. I caught Grok being wrong 3 times today alone, and I had to push back on Grok, and Grok always says, you're right to push back. You're right.
It's like a genie. Like you have to make your wishes really specific. Now look it up, Grok. Don't just say
I had
nothing.
it happen 3 times today.
Look it up,
Okay, you know what it did to me one time? And
What?
I don't ever use the voice feature because this really disturbed me. I was trying to find out, I don't know what I was looking up, that I already knew I was right about. I just need to reference it. And then, Grok, it's set to appease you. So it goes, no, it didn't, whatever. I go, yeah, no, it is true. So now I'm arguing with it. And then it goes, I swear to God, I did this. And went, no, Kurt. I go, why? What? You don't breathe? Why are you doing that? Like, and then I'm like, turn off. Don't ever fucking talk again. That's crazy.
So I like this Kelly Osbourne a lot. This one I have concern for. And that's Ozempic makes you lose your muscle. And that's the face it gives you. So when you lose, Ozempic is toxic. It's not good for you.
Yeah.
It makes you lose muscle that you never get back. And as soon as you go off Ozempic, the weight comes right back, but you have all the bad side effects. You have a paralyzed digestive system. You have pancreatitis. Some people are going blind from Ozempic. That's for real. I'm not making this up. I covered it twice on the show already.
Smoke crack to lose weight instead. It's better for you.
It
Hunter
is.
Biden looks great.
It is.
Hunter Biden looks fantastic.
Hunter Biden looks healthy.
In fact, I'm going to start smoking crack because that guy looks good.
So, yeah.
I'd like to announce my intentions now, Jimmy.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. I feel bad for her. I'm not.
It's terrible. Who is around them being like, we got to rush you somewhere right now? Somebody's got to say that to them.
Her mom's standing right next to her.
But she don't look.
But her mom doesn't look. Her mom doesn't look good either. By the way, she also seems like she grew 6 inches because she used to be shorter than her mom. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. What is going on? Is everybody gone in doubles now?
If you'd like to hear my jokes about this, come see me in San Antonio, Albuquerque, Houston, Dallas, Salt Lake City. We're going to be in Los Angeles at the Comedy Store. Ticket link coming soon. And then we'll be in Las Vegas, Tulsa, and Oklahoma City. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. Over to Steph.
Okay. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Stephen P. Nick. When I heard Board of
Kurt, we gotta
Peace
go.
and Department
bring
of
on
War,
Scott.
that was the writing on the wall. Thank you so much for that. Misha's yoga gave me a good laugh. I needed that today. Thank you. I'll definitely be subscribing and participating in the headstand class, A Kid at Heart. Keep in mind, Jim Carrey keeps mentioning the Illuminati and Pizzagate, and that it is true. So something happened, Goo 81. Maybe he's transitioning, Jim Steele suggested. You were really upset that you started with these celebrity stories today with the world crashing. Oh, yes, I can do that. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with Scott Ritter.
I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes. Trump is my favorite president. I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing.
Hold on, stand by.
Come back.
Jimmy? All right, Jim.
Hey, you may have seen the conversations happening online lately. Censorship is back. It's happening everywhere. Platforms are controlling narratives and pushing the stuff they want us to see. We need to fight back. Rumble is the only company that has stood the test of time and deserves our support. On one side, Rumble is challenging the big tech censorship, but now on the other side, they have introduced something that will give us protection from the big banks shutting us off. Banks can cancel our accounts and freeze our cards. That's why they've launched Rumble Wallet, a wallet that no one can cancel and wallet that supporters can use to instantly tip creators like myself without any middleman taking a cut. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money. Not a bank, not a government, not a tech company, not even Rumble can touch it. It's yours, only yours to protect your future and family. You can buy and save digital assets like Bitcoin, Tether, gold, and now the new USAT, Tether's U.S. regulated stablecoin in one place. Tether Gold is real gold on the blockchain with ownership of physical gold bars. USAT keeps your money steady against inflation. No banks needed. It's not only a wallet to buy and save, but it will also allow you to support your favorite creators by easily tipping them with a click of a button. There will be no fees when you tip my channel or others, and we actually receive the tip instantly, unlike other platforms where we have to wait for payouts. Support my show and other creators by clicking the tip button on my Rumble channel. It's wallet.rumble.com. Download Rumble Wallet today, open an account, and step away from the big banks for good. Wallet.rumble.com or search Rumble Wallet in the app stores. How was that? I'm pretty good at this. I get that. They call me One Take Jimmy. One Take Jimmy, and now I got one more to do, and then we're going to get to Scott.
Yep, that was a good take.
Thank you.
You talked me into it. I'm going to give you a tip tonight.
Hey, major banks are publishing aggressive gold scenarios for 2026. JP Morgan Chase has discussed scenario-based research as high as about $6,300 per year end in 2026. The Bank of America has outlined gold testing around $5,000 with silver upside tied to the historic gold-silver relationship. And while we can't make any guarantees to the future, the market has already moved faster than many expected. That doesn't mean straight lines. It means timelines compress. And when that happens, availability can tighten. At the same time, central banks have been accumulating gold, and some analysis show their gold holdings now exceed U.S. Treasury holdings. That's a signal about a long-term confidence, and it connects directly to silver's story as well, because silver isn't just a monetary metal. It's a crucial industrial input for solar, EV infrastructure, and data centers. The Silver Institute points to continued supply deficits in 2026, and when the United States Mint temporarily removed silver products to reassess pricing due to rising costs, that's a real-world indicator, not a theory. After sharp moves, markets often pull back as investors lock in gains. Disciplined participants look at those moments instead of chasing headlines. It's not about predicting tomorrow. It's about understanding how markets breathe. Monetary gold is over 25 years helping Americans understand physical gold and silver. With an education first, no pressure approach, and support for IRA-eligible options. Everyone should educate themselves in precious metals. Monetary Gold even has a complimentary guide to help you do just that. All you have to do is call 800-476-7790 or visit jimmylovesgold.com and request the free guide. You may qualify for up to $5,000 in free silver, so make sure you ask for details. Don't miss your opportunity. Get the facts and explore your options today. That's 800-476-7790 or visit jimmylovesgold.com. I don't know. I'm on a roll.
You hit it, Jim. All right. Jimmy Dore is live, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, we have our special guest, Scott Ritter, is here. He's a one-time Marine intelligence officer who served in the former Soviet Union implementing arms control agreements. And from 91 to 98, he served as the chief inspector for the United States in Iraq, leading the search for Iraqi weapons of mass destruction. He was later a vocal critic of the American decision to go to war in Iraq. He's also a best-selling author of 9 books, including the latest, Highway to Hell, The Armageddon Chronicles. From 2015 to 2024. Please welcome back to the show, Scott Ritter. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jimmy, how are you?
Good. I wanted to get your, so they've closed the Strait of Hormuz. It's happened. And I just want to show you this quick video and get your reaction.
If Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, what impact will it have on the entire world, and which country will be affected the most? First, let's understand what the Strait of Hormuz actually is. It is a small area of just 33 kilometers located between Iran, Oman, and the UAE. It is a narrow sea passage through which almost 20% of the world's oil supply flows, nearly 17 million barrels every day. This oil comes from 8 countries located in the Persian Gulf, including Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE for the United Arab Emirates. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Qatar, 90% of their oil exports pass through this narrow route to reach the rest of the world. If Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, following countries will suffer the most damage. First is India, because it imports 85% of its oil, and 60% of that comes from Middle Eastern countries like Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the UAE. Fuel prices in India would skyrocket, and as a result, everything related to oil and all industries would face severe disruption. Industries could shut down, there would be job losses, and the economy would be severely affected. The second most affected country would be China. China is the world's largest oil importer, bringing in 10 million barrels of oil every day. 40% of China's oil imports pass through this Strait of Hormuz. Although China has built oil pipelines with Russia and Central Asia, they don't even fulfill 20% of its energy needs. So, if the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, China's economy could suffer a massive blow, and if China's economy is shaken, its effects will be felt all over the world. The third most affected country would be Japan, as it imports 90% of its oil, and 75% of that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. The fourth most affected country would be Saudi Arabia. 80 to 90% of Saudi Arabia's oil goes to the rest of the world through Strait of Hormuz, while only 10% goes to Europe via its Red Sea coastline. So if this choke point is blocked, Saudi Arabia's economy will be heavily impacted. Imagine that a country suddenly loses 80 to 90% of its revenue. What would happen to it? Something similar could happen to Saudi Arabia. There's also a high chance that Saudi Arabia might send in its military to reopen the route, and that could make the situation even worse. Fifth is Pakistan, which gets about 90% of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz. This oil meets around 27% of the country's energy needs. So if the route is blocked, prices in Pakistan could rise sharply. But there's an interesting twist. Since Pakistan shares a border with Iran, and several government reports suggest that 35% of Pakistan's diesel comes unofficially from Iran. So if the strait is blocked, Pakistan might turn to Iran for oil, either quietly or through an official deal. Next in line is the UAE, because as nearly as 72% of its oil exports rely on this Strait of Hormuz. The country does have a backup option, the Habshan-Fujairah pipeline, which allows it to bypass the strait and export up to 60% of its oil. But for a major economy like the UAE, losing the remaining 40% would still be a serious blow. Next, Next comes the European countries like France, Germany and Italy, which on average get 10% of their oil through the Strait of Hormuz. A blockade here would hit them hard as well. Globally, experts warn that oil prices could soar past $150 a barrel, causing widespread inflation and possibly triggering a major global recession. So this small 33-kilometer area holds enough power to shake the entire world.
So they did just that. 20 million barrels of oil passed through the Strait of Hormuz yesterday. Today, the number may be zero, not because Iran mined the water, not because a tanker was hit, but because Lloyd's of London picked up the phone. War risk underwriters began canceling policies for Strait transits or hours after Operation Epic Fury launched. The Financial Times confirmed premiums surging 50%. Baseline war risks hits 0.25% of the whole value. For a $100 million tanker, that's $250,000 per voyage. At peak escalation rates, 1 million per transit. Vessels linked to America or Israeli interests are becoming uninsurable entirely. No price, no policy, no passage. And here they hit a tanker. I didn't know Tesla made tankers, but there it is on fire. So yeah, the claims check out. BBC that the Iran struck a paleo flag tanker Skylight near Strait of Hormuz today for illegally attempting passage. So there we are. So Scott, tell me, what do you think's going to come of this? Because they have closed the strait. They don't really even need to attack any ships, because what they really need is for Lloyd's of London to stop insuring them, and that seems to have happened. What's your take on all this?
Well, first of all, this is unprecedented. This is something that Iran has threatened to do in the past, but never did, because it usually ranked high on the escalatory ladder, meaning that in past conflicts, we didn't start straight out with, full bore. It was a little bit here, then they escalate. You try to manage the escalation, and shutting the Strait of Hormuz was always so far up the escalation chain that we never got there. And one of the reasons why we didn't get there is because everybody understands the ramifications of shutting the Strait of Hormuz. Now we're here, and it happened early on in the conflict. But it's not just that. In the same announcement that Iran made about shutting the Strait of Hormuz, in that video you showed, there's a lot of references to pipelines that could bypass. Iran had just said they're going to destroy all the pipelines as well. That they said there will be no oil coming out of the Middle East. None. Zero. And so all those worst case scenarios that you had out there that all had sort of a safety valve through pipelines, we just made it even worse. And we're talking about global instability right now. It's Donald Trump has no idea what he just did. And Scott Bessent, can sit there and do his, Ivy League snobbery, but it won't save the fact that the American economy is about to take a huge hit, along with the global economy in an election year, nonetheless.
And so what do you think? What do you think the Israel or Saudi Arabia or the United States or all of them will do now that Iran has effectively shut down the Strait of Hormuz? What do you think their next move is?
There's nothing they can do. The United States doesn't have sufficient forces to physically open. We need boots on the ground, and we don't have them. As Secretary Rubio said today, we're not configured for that. Saudi Arabia is a paper tiger. People need to realize that Saudi Arabia has been floundering against the Houthi of Yemen on Nasrallah since 2014. And suddenly we expect Saudi Arabia to stand up and be able to confront a major regional superpower like Iran. That isn't going to happen. The United Arab Emirates likewise hasn't fought an enemy like Iran. And moreover, if Saudi Arabia and the UAE escalate, Iran will escalate as well. Iran already sent a signal to Saudi Arabia, taking out an Aramco oil processing facility, and that's a signal to Saudi Arabia that Iran is capable of destroying the totality of Saudi Arabia's oil production. So it's not just that Saudi Arabia won't be able to export oil, they won't be able to produce oil. And Iran could do the same to Qatari oil fields, UAE oil production. So these Gulf Arab nations are powerless. They have spent the last several decades operating under the assumption that the United States could provide an impervious security umbrella, that the United States would guarantee that what is happening to them today would never happen. But what's happening is that Iran has showed that the United States is incapable of defending regional allies, that Iran has developed the capacity to launch offensive actions not only against Israel, who is paying a very heavy price right now, not only against American military installations, which are being devastated, and by the time this is done, will be totally eradicated, but also against the Gulf Arab nations themselves, who are waking up the fact that their airports are shut down, their port facilities are shut down, and their lifeblood, their energy production is under threat. And this is what Iran wants to do. They want to send the signal that the United States is a cancer in the Middle East, and that the only way peace will truly come is for the Gulf Arab states to become their own oncologists and excise this cancer. This is an existential struggle between the United States and Iran. The United States is seeking regime change, the toppling of the Iranian regime, and in order to survive, the Iranian regime must evict the United States from the Middle East.
So I don't remember what this video is about. Let me just play it.
The US actually wants the Strait of Hormuz to be blocked. Sounds crazy, right? If Iran blocks the strait, who gets hurt the most? China and Europe. Let's start with Europe. Before the war in Ukraine, Europe relied heavily on cheap oil and gas from Russia. But after sanctions, it was forced to shift toward the US and the Middle East. Today, around 18% of Europe's oil and 15% of its LNG comes through the Strait of Hormuz. If the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, Europe is in trouble. No Russia, no Middle East. Only one option left for Europe is the USA. Now let's look at China. Nearly 50% of its oil and 12% of its LNG flows through the Strait of Hormuz. Yes, a blockade would hurt China, but China still has Russia, pipelines, land routes, and long-term deals. So ask yourself, if the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, who suffers more? China? Temporarily. Europe? Completely. That's exactly what the US wants. Because the day that strait is blocked, Europe won't just lose oil. It might lose its independence. It will be fully dependent on the USA.
What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, that's wishful thinking. The bottom line is Europe can't afford the prices that the USA charges. What is more likely to happen is that Europe is going to be confronted with an energy shortage and will have to turn back to Russia. The nation they need to point out that's going to suffer the most is Ukraine, because this energy crisis is going to make the Europeans unable to continue to support Ukraine, because they will be facing economic collapse themselves, and they will need immediate energy relief. One source of immediate relief is, of course, the surviving Nord Stream pipeline, the one that didn't get blown up. That can be turned on immediately, and that's a more viable option than trying to double down on U.S. energy support. What the guy's not talking about here is even if Europe develops a need for energy, where's it going to come from? The United States doesn't have excess energy production capability right now to immediately meet Europe's needs. And so, the United States won't be able to fulfill the demand coming out of Europe. And so Europe will have to turn elsewhere. And the only place they can turn is Russia. So that's bad for the United States.
So according to this, let me show you this meme, Scott. Oil prices surging past $100 a barrel. Russia stands to gain 10 billion euros more per month, exactly what it spends on the Ukraine conflict. The West owns chaos, fuels Russia's strength. So us doing this, Moscow wins economically. So do you think that it's going to help Russia, right? No doubt about it, right?
Well, again, we're looking at financial numbers here, but I've spoken with Russian diplomats, and they have made the point that Russia doesn't seek global chaos. Even though financially Russia may benefit, the chaos is actually bad for Russia. Russia prefers stability and predictability. And so this is the last thing Russia wants. And the other thing is, Russia doesn't want destabilization in the Middle East. They want stability in the Middle East, especially with Iran, who is a BRICS member. So no, this is superficial. Russia is not looking for this outcome. This may be one of those outcomes that happens because of what the United States has done. But if Russia was given a choice, they'd prefer to have lower oil prices, but stable oil prices.
What comes next is expected gold and oil surge sharply. CPI will spike. That's Consumer Price Index will spike. The Fed will raise rates urgently. Global stock markets will face liquidity tightening, and the U.S. stock market will enter a financial crisis. After all the chaos settles, the stock market can resume its upward growth, but only if you still have money and the courage to buy at that time. Can you respond to that? What do you think of that, Scott?
now you're getting into economics, and you're talking to a guy who struggles to balance his checkbook every month.
Okay.
What I do know is I was debanked a while ago, and as an emergency, I went out and purchased some silver and gold. So it's in my interest to see silver and gold go up, but it does so at the cost of, again, overall economic instability. You know, I don't buy stocks because I don't have enough money to buy stocks, but I do know that my wife's 401k is going to suffer because of this. And we're at the age right now where we don't have a lot of time to rebuild or reconstruct a 401k before retirement. You know, Donald Trump promised economic stability, and he's delivered the exact opposite. This is chaos. This is the last thing we need. The irony here is that those who manage money will always make money because they play a different game than you, me, and the average American who buys stock. We're the suckers. We're the ones who invest our money and have our money stolen, have our money ripped off. We're the ones who pay a price when the stock market collapses. And this is the sad fact, is that it's the American worker, the average American, that's going to pay the biggest price with this economic downfall.
So, keeping on this this topic of energy prices, LNG, which stands for liquid natural gas, right? So European gas prices have surged 50% after the Qatar stopped producing liquid natural gas. Qatar Energy to stop producing LNG. There it is. Due to military attacks on Qatar Energy's operating facilities, industrial they have ceased production of liquefied natural gas and associated products. It values its relationship with all the stakeholders and will continue to communicate the latest. So that they did it. Breaking, Qatar Energy stops LNG production. If Qatar has shut down all its LNG production, 14 trains, as the statement's wording suggests, that's roughly 20% of the world's output. As a single company, Qatar Energy is the world's largest LNG producer. So with this move, Qatar is going to force international partner to take a much stronger stance on the war. A, it's probably a message to the White House about a potential of long-lasting conflict. And B, it's a message to Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and the European Union. What do you think that message is?
It better be to tell the United States to back off, because let me give Qatar the real message. Iran will wipe you off the face of the earth. Iran will eliminate the totality of your ability to produce liquid natural gas, not only in the short term, but in the long term. Iran will destroy the totality of your infrastructure, and you will lose all resources, and you'll become just a pathetic patch of desert in the stand. That's the message to Qatar. And so Qatar has to tell other people, this war must end now. And the pressure they're putting on Europe is that Europe's about to go bankrupt because Europe can't afford the price of liquid natural gas. You know, you saw it. It's spiking. It's going to go even higher because right now Europe is, got some reserves out there, although those reserves are being eaten up by the Ukraine conflict. But when they hit dry and there's nothing left, this is the end of the European economy. Already we've seen, metal industries, forges and stuff shut down because they can't afford to pay the price of the natural gas that powers their furnaces. Industries will shut down because they can't afford natural gas. The European economy has been a train wreck as it is. It's about to become an absolute disaster because of the prices of liquid natural gas. So, the message that needs to be sent isn't to take a tougher line with Iran, because Iran doesn't care. Iran just had its supreme leader killed. Iran has been told that your regime is going down. We're going to kill you all. So Iran is saying, well, if we're going down, everybody's going down, and that's where we're at right now, with the Iranians basically telling the Qataris, you need to have an attitude adjustment, and they're saying the same message to the United Arab Emirates and all the other energy producing nations of the Gulf Arab region.
And so here is Putin saying that European gas prices have increased by more than 30% after Qatar Energy halts their production. So here's what Putin actually says this. There's one pipeline left of Nord Stream 2. It's not damaged. It can deliver 27.5 billion cubic meters of gas into Europe.
Yeah.
It only takes a decision from the German government, nothing else. Today, a decision. Tomorrow, we turn on the tap and the gas flows, but they aren't making it because Washington says no. What? So do you think that so knowing Europe's leaders, even being plunged into an energy crisis such as this, will continue sticking dogmatically to their self-destructive foreign policy and will refuse to allow Russia energy exports to Europe to start again? Do you have any predictions on that? I mean, I understand that Europe is acting like psychopaths, just as much as the Biden administration and the Trump administration. They're actually doing these self-inflicted wounds left and right. The Nord Stream pipeline was a self-inflicted wound on the European economy, and now they have one more pipeline open. Do you think they'll continue to shoot themselves in the foot or in the head by denying the Russian energy to Europe? What do you think?
Well, I think there's some steps that have to take place before they'll turn on Nord Stream. But the first step is that Europe is going to come to grips with the fact that the United States is no longer the global superpower that it claims to be. The United States is about to be defeated in the Middle East by Iran. We are not going to achieve our objectives. We're going to be humiliated. We're going to run out of ammunition, and we're going to have to seek a devastating conditions of ceasefire, because what will happen when we run out of ammunition is that Iran will continue to launch missiles and we have no defense. And so not only will over $100 billion of U.S. military infrastructure in the Middle East be destroyed, but Israel will be fundamentally destroyed as well. The United States, in order to bring an end to this conflict, will have to agree to terms such as they are going to leave the Middle East. And when the United States leaves the Middle East, Europe is one of the nations that have benefited from the American security umbrella, and Europe will have to do a massive recalculation about where its security interests lie. And Europe is not capable of securing itself. So rather than confronting Russia, they will have to learn to live peacefully with Russia. And one of the ways you live peacefully with Russia is to trade with Russia. And the best and the most economically beneficial trade would be to resume the purchase of Russian energy, and the most efficient and fastest way to do that is to turn on the Nord Stream pipeline. So I think that, yes, the Nord Stream pipeline is going to be turned on sooner rather than later. I also think that the people who are going to make that decision in Europe aren't going to be named Merz, Macron, Starmer, Ursula von der Leyen, and others, because they will have no credibility shortly. They will be held accountable for the economic collapse of Europe, and they will be removed. And there will be a new generation of political leaders who be more inclined to look out for what's best for Europe, and what's best for Europe is to purchase Russian gas at a very reasonable price.
So do you, am I hearing things, or are you saying that in a weird way, this big mistake that Trump is doing and Israel are doing, this is could result actually in a weird, after this, the world gets set on fire, that there will actually pull out of the Middle East, and there'll be more stability in Europe with Russia and the Middle East? Do you think that's possibly the end of this?
Either the United States wins, and right now I don't see a path towards victory, and they collapse the Iranian regime and they achieve the outcome they're desiring, or we run out of ammunition and we lose. And we know right now Donald Trump has acknowledged that the original time frame of this conflict is no longer realistic. But the first thing he said is, we have enough ammunition. But the ammunition he's going to source comes from around the world, meaning we're going to draw down on the Pacific. What's that say about our ability to have a military overmatch with China? We've also drawn down in Europe, and we don't have enough ammunition. Iran has planned this campaign out brilliantly. They can outlast us. And when we lose, one of the conditions that Iran has already made clear is that for the Gulf Arab nations to have normal relations with Iran, they must cease their cooperation with the United States. If they don't, then they will die. They will be destroyed. And we've already talked about how that can happen, simply blowing up pipelines, blowing up gas terminals, and that's the end of their economies. None of these sheiks want to, they won't survive that. The people will rise up and they'll be dragged through the streets and hacked to death. That's what happens to Middle East kings who lose faith of the people. And so these we already hear the United Arab Emirates talking about the United States needs to get out. And you're going to hear other nations say the same thing, especially when it becomes clear that the infrastructure the United States had in those nations had been destroyed. And the only way the United States could return is by rebuilding this infrastructure. And they can't do that if they just lost this conflict. So yes, I'm saying that one of the things that could happen with this conflict is that the United States will be compelled to leave the Middle East, stop viewing it as its personal military-dominated stomping grounds, and force the nations of the Persian Gulf to learn to live together in peace and harmony. And you know what? It was China that came in and brokered a rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran. So we know it's possible if the United States just gets out of the way. And Israel cannot posture the way it currently postures without the backing of the United States. But if the United States is strategically defeated in the Middle East, as it appears we will be, then Israel will have to tone down its message as well. And then there's Europe. We're speaking of the economic collapse of Europe, which will lead to the political collapse of the ruling elite, which will lead to a new class of politicians who may very well realize that they have to live in peace with Russia. And the conflict in Ukraine will end on terms favorable to Russia. And guess what? Peace will be breaking out all over, because the number one impediment to global peace is the United States. And when you remove the United States from the equation, good things can happen.
Scott Ritter, I appreciate you taking time to talk to us today. Thank you for your expertise. I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon. And take care, pal.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go get our good friend Max Blumenthal on the line, and we'll be right back in 1 minute.
It's interesting. I haven't thought about AIPAC. And it's interesting. You're like the first to bring up AIPAC in years, which is interesting. Why did I say that? Not relevant to my day-to-day life.
Okay.
Which is just interesting.
Listen.
It's interesting you say that. JPAC perhaps more, but AIPAC less and less.
Okay. Fair enough.
Which is just interesting.
What's interesting about it?
That it's just interesting as you bring up AIPAC, that it hasn't been part of, I'm just reflecting quite openly and honestly, hasn't been part of the day-to-day.
All right, let's go back live on Jimmy Dore. Boom.
Hey, we're here with our good friend Max Blumenthal, award-winning journalist and editor-in-chief of The Gray Zone. He's a best-selling author of several books, including The 51-Day War and The Management of Savagery. Welcome back to the show, Max Blumenthal. Hey, Max.
Hey, good to see you, Jimmy.
So I want to just figure out I've gotten conflicting stories. I've seen Republican congressmen go on TV and say, we don't want regime change in Iran. I've heard the opposite, saying that we do want regime change in Iran. But what they're doing, so this is my question, is what's their end game? Because they're now bombing police stations inside of Iran.
Yep.
And so a bunch of them, not just one, a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them there that they're hitting. And so Israel is now actively bombing every police station in Tehran. The aim has always been to create total chaos and the fragmentation of Iran into a regional warring factions like they did in Syria, Libya, and Iraq. And so is that what you think they're going to do, that they're going to try to turn like we did to Libya? Obama did to Libya, turned it into a failed state. Same thing we did to Syria. We balkanized it. We split it up. Do you think the goal is not to actually install another dictator like we did before in Iran, but the goal is to actually make it ungovernable and destabilize it so we can try to split it up? What do you think the end game is?
Yeah, that's it. If they can achieve regime change, well, first of all, Trump is so malleable and so void of any original thought that he was sold on the idea that he could actually have a Venezuela-like solution to Iran, like a relatively quick resolution after liquidating Iran's leadership with brilliant Israeli assassination tactics. And then there'd be some kind of Delcy Rodriguez figure who would just step into the void and give him access and Israel access to all of Iran's wealth and all of its shipping lanes. And that would be it. And that shows you how he surrounded himself with neoconservative psychopaths and the brain dead droids that populate the think tanks, the lanyards of K Street, who actually believe in their own lies. What he's doing is not only diabolical, it's delusional, because you can clearly see that he's receiving the exact opposite effect that he did in Venezuela by assassinating Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, someone who, if you go to Iran or go to any Shia community in the region, you will see is a very beloved figure. And killing him for many people, I'm talking about millions and millions of people, is like killing their father. So he has electrified the Shia masses. And they're persisting with this strategy of regime change, thinking that they can get the Iranian people to just rise up as though they were living under some kind of dictatorship like the Shia population in Bahrain under US control is, by bombing police stations. They're not just bombing police stations. They're bombing Basij centers. These are the centers where young men who are mostly unarmed, who are very deeply invested in the Iranian revolution and the Shia ideology, they go there and they organize and they pray there. And I've been by them, just walking through Tehran. They're like next door to pharmacies and schools. I actually saw one right across the street from a synagogue, which was a synagogue open to the public. So they're bombing the crap out of these residential neighborhoods, trying to cause some civil uprising when all they're doing is murdering civilians, including many people who are critical of the Islamic Republic, who don't agree with the government, but now they're like, oh my God, like I'm like actually citing real reports I've seen from Tehran. I saw a guy at a restaurant whose head was decapitated, and he was taken out of the restaurant with his head blown off. They blew up our apartment building and then blew up the rescue crew. These are real things that happen today. People are not going to rise up when they see that happening to their neighbors. They're going to see what the Islamic Republic's leadership meant when they said that they are fighting the great Satan, because these attacks are satanic. And another thing that's being done is attacks on Iranian border guards. Why? Axios, which is like this access publication here in Washington, where they just publish basically like press releases for power, just reported that Trump is aiming to cause a Kurdish uprising. So they want groups that have been armed by the CIA, Kurdish groups in Iraq, to storm into Iran and destabilize the country. And then there's ISIS. All of these ISIS fighters were moved from the prisons in Syria because apparently the US couldn't trust the Al-Qaeda jail guards to keep them there. They moved them to Iraq, so they're closer to Iran, so they could try to bring ISIS in as well. So that's what Iran is up against. And what you're seeing is a complete repudiation of the entire neoconservative vision that Trump was sold on for now, where people are actually going out on their own free will as volunteers to conduct traffic, to check cars for weapons. And you're seeing kind of like a revolutionary society come into view with deeply invested in ideology. The commanders who were killed in the IRGC, the guys behind them are younger, and they're more gung-ho and more willing to fight to the death. And there's this giant popular base that now will reject any ceasefire because a ceasefire will be seen as humiliation. That's what Trump has unleashed. And as we speak, U.S. embassies are under attack from Saudi Arabia to Iraq to Karachi and Pakistan, under attack by people. And the U.S. embassy in Riyadh just went up in flames because it was hit by a Shahed drone. So that's what Trump has done for Israel. For Israel. I'm sure Scott mentioned it. I wasn't able to see his interview before me. But Marco Rubio, who's basically in control of the administration's foreign policy, J.D. Vance is like on the B team. Yeah. Marco Rubio freely admitted that they did this war, the U.S. bombed, because Israel told them, if you don't bomb, we will, and then you have to follow us. I mean, can you imagine a president making the case to the American public that we have to bomb because some crazy foreign country is going to carry out an attack on a third party, so we have to just support them and throw all of these American service members in harm's way, along with all U.S. embassies, U.S. bases? And that's their case. Like, they literally admitted, we're fighting a war for Israel, and there's no way to deny it. Pete Hegseth, I don't know if you have this clip, I tweeted it earlier. Pete Hegseth was asked today in a press conference at the Pentagon. You know, he's been avoiding the press, and like he fired the whole press corps. They banned the whole press corps at the Pentagon, and he brought in like Laura Loomer and a bunch of influencer clowns. He had to do a real press conference today, and he was asked a simple question: can you explain to young men and women who are being sent into harm's way as members of the military why they are fighting? And he just lost it on the reporter. He could not answer the question.
So here, come to me and I'll show you. I think this is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Let's play this.
The American people also want to know what they're sending their men and women to war for. Is there a concern of this spiraling into a longer war? And then one for the chairman when you're done.
Did you not hear my remarks? We're ensuring the mission gets accomplished, but we're very clear-eyed, as the president has been, unlike other presidents, about the foolish policies of the past that recklessly pulled us in to things that were not tethered to actual clear objectives. So we know, we have plans, we have generals, we have chairmen, we have commanders, CENTCOM commanders, Admiral Cooper.
The American people.
So what is the clear objective? Again, that we don't know. What is the clear objective? That what does he mean by a clear? There is no clear objective, right?
If were there an objective, he would have said what the objective was, and he would have explained why this war needed to take place. But he couldn't. We have chairmans, he said. We have chairmans, we have generals. Why don't you go ask those guys? Well, actually, the chairman is against this war. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the Pentagon, General Dan Kane, is against this war. And he went out to like the whole mainstream press before Trump launched the attack because he knew it was coming. And he said, this is going to be a disaster. And he was speaking purely from the point of view of military strategy and procurement, because he understood that what is happening right now, where the U.S. is moving THAAD anti-missile batteries from South Korea, repositioning its entire arsenal to defend Israel, would have to happen because they would run out of munitions by the end of this week. The U.S. is about to run out of munitions to defend the apartheid colony of Israel, and it's embarrassing for the Pentagon. They're leaking all over the place. I expect resignations soon, and they're under the control of this dry drunk DUI hire, Pete Hegseth, who can't even explain the mission as U.S. service members die. This is a catastrophe. Donald Trump was sold on this by Lindsey Graham, who is a vehicle for Israeli foreign influence and is a traitor to America and a traitor to humanity. And he was pressured on this and pushed into this by Zionist-controlled Murdoch media with the idea that all he needed to do is carry out limited strikes. There would be these spectacular AI-controlled assassinations of Iranian leadership, and then the Iranian people would rise up. He was sold on the lie that Iranians had risen up in January and that Iran's government had killed 30,000 Iranians. Complete lie. There were riots that were put down and many police instant regime change. He thought the war would last 2 to 4 days. And now he has come out in an interview with the New York Post, I think, more Murdoch media, and said he can't rule out boots on the ground.
That's right. That's right. He said that. In fact, here it is. Donald Trump says he would deploy ground troops if necessary. That's from Time magazine, but he told that actually to the Post. So, I think that would probably officially end his presidency. I think that for sure that the Republicans would lose the midterms and then they would impeach him, and it would be over.
Inshallah, as they say, but I think it would end U.S. empire.
I agree. I mean,
I hope it doesn't happen. I don't want to see American troops getting killed. American troops don't want to do this. The Pentagon leadership doesn't want to do this, but Trump is under the control of a foreign nation.
No doubt.
And he has been lured into this scenario in which there's no way out unless he wants to basically admit defeat.
So
because he's losing right now.
I mean, this is the whole what Donald Trump, when he gave that speech about why we're going to war, where he wore his baseball hat, what he said it many times over during that speech that they cannot have a nuclear weapon, But right now at the White House website, it says Iran's nuclear facilities have been obliterated and suggests otherwise. So that's what they remember when he bombed Iran last June. They said they obliterated they were obliterated. So there's no way in this short a time that they could have reconstituted their entire nuclear program. And so imagine, so this was Richard says, imagine starting a major war with Iran over their nuclear program when this is on the official White House website. So it's obviously not about what they say. They don't have an end game, except their end game being to totally destabilize the Middle East, because they did it to Libya, is totally destabilized. Syria is totally destabilized. I don't know what the state of Iraq is. But they're going to do that too. What they did to Syria and Libya, they're going to do to Iran. And then that's it. I mean, I don't know. How does that, do you think that actually helps Israel? What's Israel going to do?
Well, Netanyahu, in Hebrew, of course, he won't say this in English. In Hebrew, he made one of the most important statements of his career in a message to the Israeli public, introducing whatever stupid name they came up with, Operation Roaring Lion.
Yeah.
He made one of the most important statements where he said that Trump is enacting the plan that I put into place 40 years ago. He just said it. Okay, he's taking credit for everything Trump is doing. And everyone who is watching this right now needs to just constantly cite that statement and constantly just reinforce the point that Trump has become a vehicle for Israeli influence, and the Israeli agenda, as Netanyahu has been determined to enact for his entire career, is to get the U.S. as deeply involved in a bloody conflict or a series of bloody conflicts in the Middle East as possible, and to make the American public bay for blood as revenge for the killing of their soldiers, because Netanyahu is afraid, justifiably, that the U.S. will lose interest and the American public will lose interest and turn against spending $4 billion a year and all sorts of other tax incentives and buying bonds to support his crappy little psychotic apartheid colony, when what the U.S. empire really wants to do is pivot to Asia and compete with China. And so Netanyahu is winning right now as the U.S. is losing. The U.S. is repositioning critical military assets. I mean, think from a purely imperial point of view right now, not from a Max Blumenthal point of view or Jimmy Dore point of view. Imperial point of view, you want your THAAD missile batteries, the most advanced air defense system. You want them in the Pacific Rim. You want them countering China. You want them in Taiwan. You want them in South Korea and Japan. And then, beyond that, you probably want them in Ukraine, and you want your Patriot batteries in Ukraine because Russia is the next biggest threat. And you're basically in a war with Russia. And they're repositioning all of that to defend Israel. They're even repositioning or abandoning the Gulf allies who've been paying Trump so much money through corruption channels like his World Liberty Financial crypto network. They're abandoning everyone for Israel. And so Netanyahu is getting everything he wants out of this. 40 years ago, Netanyahu entered the public stage. About 30 years ago, Netanyahu was first elected to prime minister. He's the longest serving prime minister in Israeli history. And when he was elected, he came into power with a document called the Clean Break document. If you're watching this, you can easily just Google it up, and you'll see the entire plan that's being put into place right now at its end stage. This document was written by ostensibly American neoconservatives, Merav Wormser, David Wormser, Richard Pearl, Douglas Feith, at an Israeli-sponsored think tank in Washington, D.C. for Netanyahu. Those figures went on to be the neoconservative brain trust behind George W. Bush's war on Iraq. And the Clean Break document spells out a strategy for using the U.S. to carry out regime change against all of the countries capable of preventing Israel from establishing a greater Israel and becoming a regional hegemon. And so when you look at all the regime change projects we've witnessed over the last 20 years or so, Iraq, Syria, Libya, it was all leading up to Iran. And this is clearly spelled out in this document. And now they're aiming to use the U.S. to get Iran completely out of the way, either through regime change or state collapse. And then Israel will have a puppet government, or it will be able to manipulate some balkanized, ethno-states, kind of like an Iranian version of the breakup of Yugoslavia, to take over the Strait of Hormuz, to take over Iran's oil. And then Russia and China have to deal with Israel. There is no more axis of resistance. There's basically no more BRICS. So that's what Iran is up against, and this is the final fight for Iran. If Iran negotiates a ceasefire like tomorrow or next week, the U.S. and Israel are going to come back for more because Israel has control over Trump, and Israel needs this war to reach its final conclusion before Netanyahu dies. I mean, he's an old man. He had an operation. Trump is 78. Midterms are coming up. The FIFA World Cup is coming up in the US. They want to get this over with. And, if they fail, it is one of the biggest blows to US empire ever. And it stops short this diabolical plan for a takeover. But we're also, us in the US, we're witnessing a takeover here. It is required a takeover of our own government to make this possible. Everyone is now opposed. Everyone in this country, except for like maybe some, Fox News boomers and some like crazed Persian gusanos in Westwood, LA, seems to be against this war. But it's going ahead anyway without any explanation. And that's really because we're under occupation here as well. So we're all kind of in this fight together for our own sovereignty. And that's really what Iran is up against.
Well, Max, I hate to tell you, but I watch CNN and they tell me that what you just said is considered white nationalist talk. If you say that our government is occupied by Zionists, then that's just come straight out of the mouth of white nationalists, white supremacists. And even though it's true, white nationalists also say 2 + 2 = 4. So, but that is what CNN says. So, no, you're talking about. So, we just got done talking about what is the end game for the United States. This is the game you've been talking about. This here it is. This is the game that Israel is playing, and they've been playing this game since 1948, if not longer. And it's called the Greater Israel Project. Reminder that that Israel is currently building the Greater Israel. That's why they're shifting focus to Lebanon after having wiped out Palestine. Then Syria, Yemen. So this is a tweet from 2024. This is from 2 years ago. So they go to Syria. They already did it. They got their half of Syria. They split up Syria. They have control of the part of Syria they want. That is the part of Greater Israel. They're still bombing Yemen. We did Iraq for them. So they're going to go after Turkey next, and Egypt and Saudi Arabia. But here it is. This is the Greater Israel Project. So it goes into Egypt. It goes into Syria. They got it. It goes into Iraq. And it also goes into Saudi Arabia. So if Saudi Arabia thinks that they're on the same side as Israel and the United States, they're wrong, because here, I'll show you right now. Here's Avril Limpkin. I forget. He's a politician and a writer. And here he's going to tell you exactly what the goal is of Israel.
Eventually, our borders will extend from Lebanon to the Great Desert, which is Saudi Arabia, and then from the Mediterranean to the Euphrates. And who's on the other side of the Euphrates? The Kurds. And the Kurds are our friends. So we have the Mediterranean behind us, the Kurds in front of us, Lebanon, which really needs the umbrella of protection of Israel. And then we're going to take, I believe we're going to take Mecca, Medina, and Mount Sinai.
So he's talking about they're going to go in and take over half of Saudi Arabia. That's what he's saying right there. That they're going to go in and take over half of Iraq. They're going to take over half of Syria. They've done it. They're going to take over some of Egypt. And that's so, and now they're going to go after, so that he's literally telling you they're going to go after Mecca and they're going to go after Saudi Arabia, which, can Saudi Arabia be that naive to think that that's not their plan? That's not, well, go ahead, Max.
They're paying for that naivete right now. I mean, their oil facilities are getting blown up by
Israel.
U.S. air defense systems as the shrapnel falls to the ground.
Oh, okay.
I mean, this is what you get for being a complete vassal and tool and paying into this oil protection racket. But yeah, I mean, I don't know who that whack job is, but he is articulating a real vision of the religious nationalist camp that controls the Israeli government, or effectively, is really like the incipient rising force in Jewish Israeli society. Like, this is what they think. And it's not just the religious nationalists, it's even the secular camp in Israel. Yair Lapid is one of the main opposition figures in Israel. He's considered an opposition figure to Netanyahu. He has said the same thing this week, that there is a biblical vision of a greater Israel between the Euphrates and the Nile, and it is legitimate. The Israeli flag has hijacked the Jewish Star of David, the symbol of my faith community, and placed it between two blue lines, which symbolize the Nile and the Euphrates. The original Jewish National Fund charter for where Israel's borders would be, I believe it was from 1913, identifies it as anywhere in biblical Israel between the Nile and the Euphrates. So this is a vision that was also articulated by Mike Huckabee, the U.S.-Israeli reciprocal ambassador. I mean, we can't even determine, it looks like he's representing Israel against the United States, and he said it would be fine if they took all of it over.
In fact,
so that's the vision. But how is it going to play out? Israel tried to settle the Sinai. They were overstretched. They did have settlements there at one point. They lost them after the 73 war. But what they want to do is gain control over the governments that control this territory and be able to have access to it, settle it. They've like moved into the Golan because they got a weak government in Syria under this rebranded Al-Qaeda. But it doesn't mean that they're actually going to necessarily settle the entire thing and what they call Judaize it, where they're annexing the West Bank. It's about domination, making the Arab Muslim states subservient, and they're using the U.S. military as their battering ram to accomplish this. However, if they fail in this campaign against Iran, the lesson that the Gulf states will learn is hosting U.S. bases on our territory and normalizing with Israel is a huge liability. Like in Dubai, you're seeing hotels and various apartments get hit. These are not civilian targets. Iran has gained intelligence, and they're hitting not only CIA bases, they're hitting Mossad bases, places where Israeli intelligence has its officers in the United Arab Emirates, which is normalized with Israel under the so-called Abraham Accords, or what would be better known as the Epstein Accords. And then finally, if someone wants to call me a white nationalist for saying this, I mean, it's just so unfortunate that you have major U.S. and Israeli officials who are basically the embodiment of anti-Semitic stereotypes, saying everything that a neo-Nazi would want to hear a Jew say to validate their worst critiques of Jewish people. They're just saying it out loud, and I hate that. That's one reason I'm against Zionism. Another reason.
What would be an example? What would be an example of what they're saying? So when they conflate Judaism with Zionism, you mean things like that?
That, and saying they're openly saying they would like to take over the entire region. They're openly saying that Trump is following their plan.
Yeah.
And doing it for them. I mean, this is open, but here's another person who's not exactly, coming at this from the Max Blumenthal or Jimmy Dore perspective. It's Mark Warner, one of the richest men in the Senate, a conservative Democrat from Virginia, someone who's part of the War Party, the Uniparty. He said this today: there was no imminent threat to the United States by the Iranians. There was a threat to Israel. If we equate a threat to Israel as the equivalent of an imminent threat to the U.S., then we are in uncharted territory. So he's basically saying we went to war for Israel. Trump went to war for Israel. I mean, they're saying it. He's part of the Gang of Eight that was briefed by Marco Rubio, who told them we have to go to war for Israel. They're openly saying it right now. Well, the mask is off. Everybody can see what Stephen Walt and John Mearsheimer saw when they wrote the Israel Lobby and had their careers as the two of the top international relations professors in the United States utterly destroyed. Everyone can see it now.
So here is that clip you were talking about with Marco Rubio, which just kind of hammers home what you're saying about that Israel is our leader and we're following them, and our government has been taken over by Zionists. And so here's that clip.
There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before we responded, because the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage. Had we not done so, there would have been hearings on Capitol Hill about how we knew that this was going to happen and we didn't act preemptively to prevent more casualties and more loss of life.
So that is classic Zionist logic to me. That is they start a war of aggression and they say that they're doing it in a defensive posture somehow, that they're the victim. So we had to go strike them first because we didn't want to be the victim. But what he's basically saying is what you just said, Max, is that we knew Israel was going to strike Iran, so we had to follow what we couldn't tell them not to do that. We couldn't, but anyway, so you want to respond to that a little?
He's openly admitting it. And this idea first that Iran was planning to wage a preemptive war on the U.S. after the U.S. completely encircled it with its assets. Where did that come from first? It was first filtered out by Scott Jennings. You know who he is?
Yes, the CNN contributor.
He's like their token Trump guy on CNN. He's a vehicle for Israeli influence, along with Van Jones, who's gone on junkets to Israel paid for by the Israeli Foreign Ministry. You see them with these blue squares on their jacket lapels. I've heard they're getting kickbacks from the Anti-Defamation League to wear those blue squares, which are ADL logos. Van Jones is clearly on the Israeli payroll. He just interviewed the clown prince Reza Pahlavi. Yeah. I mean, how does he get furnished the Israeli-controlled clown prince who wants to be king of Iran? And so it was Scott Jennings who let that leak out. There are now reports that CNN higher-ups are angry about it because it was such a lie. All of this is coming from the Israelis. All the intelligence on Iran, if you want to call it intelligence, all of the narratives, the rhetoric that you hear from this administration, it's all being delivered to them on a platter by the Mossad, which is briefing CIA Director John Ratcliffe, who feeds it to Trump. And Trump is just lapping it all up as his brain turns to bong water and some mixture of bong water and floor sweat at the Mar-a-Lago ballroom. It's evident when you look at the photo of the Situation Room, which I highlighted. When you look at the photo and you see Trump is with the A team in Mar-a-Lago when they just decided to go in and bomb. Everyone saw the video of Trump bopping his head, and they're having a party at Mar-a-Lago, and then he's about to go into the room and announce the war with his USA hat on. And then B team is actually in the Oval Office or in the White House Situation Room. And the B team is J.D. Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, that crew that's more likely to be dissenters. They're just there for window dressing. The A team is in control. Who's the A team? First of all, Susie Wiles, Chief of Staff. Susie Wiles controls who's in the room and everything Trump sees and hears. She is the most dangerous person in Washington because she's mostly behind under the radar. She worked for Benjamin Netanyahu.
Oh.
Trump's chief of staff was hired by Benjamin Netanyahu to help assist his 2020 reelection campaign. So she's a paid vehicle for Israeli influence. Then Marco Rubio's in there, of course. His whole career has been paid for by two figures, pretty much. The Adelson family, who are cutouts for Israel, Miriam Adelson and the late casino baron Sheldon Adelson. I mean, they're so close to Israel, they actually had to testify and keep flying to Tel Aviv to testify in Netanyahu's corruption trials. And Paul Singer, who's also one of Trump's top donors. Paul Singer's like Marco Rubio's pimp. And this guy donates to politics on behalf of Israel. And then you have John Ratcliffe, who, as I reported last year, is being called by junior staffers the Mossad stenographer, because he hosts his counterpart, Mossad director David Barnea, constantly. And Barnea tells him what to tell the president. And John Ratcliffe, he has no ability to think independently. He's a complete nobody who was a small-town lawyer in suburban Dallas, who was a backbench congressman, who was recruited by AIPAC to run for Congress. His whole career he was groomed by AIPAC, cultivated by AIPAC. The AIPAC new CEO, in leaked comments that I exposed at the Gray Zone, because I had a source inside a closed AIPAC conference, it was like a congressional briefing. The new CEO of AIPAC said, we've been working with Marco Rubio and John Ratcliffe and Mike Waltz, who's now the UN ambassador for the US. We've been working with them for so long because they were in Congress. And when they all started running for Congress, we recruited them and we made sure that we supported them for their entire congressional career, so that when they went into the Trump administration, we had clear lines of communication with all of the national security principles. So that's Israel's unregistered foreign lobby, the CEO, saying they basically have these guys like puppets on a string, and therefore they have Trump. Trump's sort of isolated in there. No one's the only person who tried to talk sense to Trump was Tucker Carlson. Who was the last person who tried to talk sense to Trump on Iran?
With Charlie
during
Kirk.
The last round. Charlie Kirk. Well, Charlie Kirk, conveniently for Trump and Israel, is not with us. And if you're in the White House, you're at any level of any position in the administration, and you or someone close to you, maybe a spouse, retweets anything that Charlie Kirk said about not going to war with Iran, you will be considered a security threat. I know this for a fact. And Trump will send like Laura Loomer to attack you. So they're trying to silence Charlie Kirk even after his death. And Tucker Carlson is facing real threats. There's a guy named Amit Sigal. He's one of the most prominent journalists in Israel. He's like the poodle of Netanyahu. He's like Netanyahu's main mouthpiece in Israeli media. And he said, after the Ayatollah was assassinated, the number one anti-Semite on the planet is Tucker Carlson. So Netanyahu's top press stenographer put a target on Tucker Carlson's back and wants to see him. It seems like he wants to see him get Charlie Kirked. And everyone else is intimidated, and Trump is cornered, and Israel is completely in charge of this administration, where Iran, with respect to Iran, Trump is committing treason to America and humanity with this war. And we need to see it clearly for what it is as American soldiers continue to die for the ambitions of a foreign apartheid state.
Do you think it would make a difference if someone like Tulsi Gabbard resigned? Because she was saying what we say. She was like, Trump should stop. In 2019 and 2018, she interviewed legislation that said Trump shouldn't be able to attack Iran without congressional approval. She's been totally against this up until the point where she got into the Trump administration. In fact, even last April, she's saying, no, Iran's not they're not a threat. They're not looking to make nuclear weapons. And then Trump just dismissed her because Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't want to hear that. So he goes, yeah, I don't listen to her. So what is she doing there if she doesn't have any influence? And would it do you think she should resign? And if she did, would it make a difference?
I don't know what she's doing on the inside. What I understand from sources who are definitely not on the inside, don't have access to the president, but, are closer to the action than I would be. It's kind of like grapevine stuff. is that she's been pretty much isolated from any of these discussions around Iran. So if that's the case and she can't have any influence, the only thing left to do is either, leak to the press and try to undermine the policy from within using your access, or to resign in protest. I mean, there was George Ball, one of the few heroes of the U.S. foreign policy establishment, who was assistant or undersecretary of state under Lyndon Johnson. And he loathed the Vietnam War and saw it as a complete calamity and a crime and an abomination. And he, instead of resigning, he used the opportunity at every meeting to just deliver Lyndon Johnson with a barrage of bad news about Vietnam and to be the voice of dissent. But he was allowed in the room. Lyndon Johnson, in the back of his mind, knew George Ball was right, but he always went with the Joint Chiefs who wanted to bomb and bomb and bomb, and then he'd complain about it. He was weak in the face of the Joint Chiefs and the warmongers, bombs away LeMay and Robert McNamara. George Ball, actually, towards the end of his life, he wrote a very prophetic book about Israel and the so-called special relationship with Israel called Passionate Attachment, borrowing from the words from George Washington's final address, warning the U.S. against passionate attachments to foreign nations and foreign conflicts. And George Ball warned that this would destroy whatever was left of the U.S. soft power. And he wrote it in the 90s when the U.S. was riding high and was in complete control of the globe after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Is Tulsi Gabbard doing the same thing that George Ball did? Is she given that access to Trump? Would Trump even listen to anyone? I highly doubt it. I was the first person to report that Charlie Kirk, or one of the first, that Charlie Kirk stormed into the White House and demanded that Trump not launch an attack on Iran. And Trump shouted at him and basically put a hand in his face and dispatched him. Trump was very condescending to Charlie Kirk. So imagine how Tulsi Gabbard would be treated. And this raises questions about Tulsi Gabbard and whether she meant what she said when she was one of the few dissenters in Congress to all of these wars. I mean, she knows. She was in Anbar. She saw what happened in the Iraq War. She saw soldiers die right in front of her. So where is she? That's a great question. And I think, there are going to be resignations. I expect there to be resignations, but they're going to be at the Pentagon before the White House.
I think if J.D. Vance was smart, he would resign. If he wants a political future running for president, I think it would be the best thing for him. He's not going to do it. But let me just ask you this. So I saw this and I immediately wanted to get your take on this. So Sarah tweets out, fresh off murdering 148 Iranian schoolgirls and assassinating Iran's supreme leader, Israel is now setting its sights on Turkey. So let me just give you this and you can respond to it.
A new Turkish threat is emerging. I want to be very clear. Turkey and Qatar have gained influence in Syria, are seeking influence elsewhere and everywhere throughout the region. And from here, I warn, Turkey is the new Iran.
I mean,
Erdogan is sophisticated, dangerous, and he seeks to encircle Israel. And while some senior Israelis were on Qatar's payroll, Qatar and Turkey are nourishing the Islamic Brotherhood monster that is growing and eventually might become as dangerous as the one created by Iran. Turkey and Qatar are gaining influence not only in Syria, but also in Gaza, through the front door, and everywhere, and trying to create a new choke ring. Turkey is trying to flip Saudi Arabia against us and establish a hostile Sunni axis with nuclear Pakistan.
So it sounds crazy, but that, again, this is the Greater Israel Project. And the irony is that Turkey and Israel we're fighting together to overthrow Syria. Now Turkey has a part of Syria and Israel has a part of Syria. And now he's saying, hey, we got to go against Turkey. And believe me, they're already bombing Saudi Arabia, Israel, to try to do in a false flag attempt to try to draw Saudi Arabia into this war against Iran. But what do you make of that guy saying that they're now turning their attention to go into Turkey and they're treating Turkey like Iran? And go ahead, take it where you want.
Well, that's not just some guy. That's Naftali Bennett, who did serve in a power-sharing coalition as prime minister and is, I would think, most likely to succeed Benjamin Netanyahu whenever he leaves the stage. And he actually took a dig at Netanyahu, who's facing this scandal in Israel called Qatargate, because several staffers have been exposed for basically being on the Qatari payroll, which is, you would think is weird, like Qatar's against Israel, but that's not the case. They're on anybody's side. They're on everybody's side. Anybody they can influence. And they did material things for them. So he's clearly jockeying to take on Netanyahu by offering kind of a more broad vision beyond Iraq, a more forward-looking vision for expanding Israel's hegemony throughout the region. And he's calling for basically open conflict with a NATO state, because Turkey is controlled by the AKP party, which is inspired by the Muslim Brotherhood, but it's still a state that is the number 2 export partner for natural gas to Israel, that helps supply Israel's war machine, that abides by NATO, that has NATO listening stations directed against Iran, that played a real role in toppling the government of Syria, which was an Israeli priority. But Israel's already kind of engaged in a war in the gray zone, you could call it, against Turkey in Syria, because the Turkish government, the Syrian government of Ahmed al-Sharaa, who's like this rebranded al-Qaeda leader, is basically, his main backer is Turkey. And they share this vision of a kind of Sunni Muslim Brotherhood emirate style vision, which does expand to Israel's borders. The Syrian government's very weak. It lacks credibility among a large part of the Syrian population. That's better for Israel. But I think he sees that Israel faces looming threats if Turkey and Syria become more coherent. Qatar is part of that same axis. But, we would kind of think that's unusual because both Turkey and Qatar are also financially and politically completely interwoven into the Western imperial architecture, to the point where Qatari representatives were hanging out at Jeffrey Epstein's townhome on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. So that shows you kind of how extreme Israel's vision for the future is, that they're actually going to direct their war machine against countries that are NATO member states, that are deeply invested in the Western political world, unlike Iran. And it also shows you how much Israel needs enemies in order to keep its own society together. I mean, if the Palestinians just disappeared and voluntarily swam into the sea or self-deported, and Iran just dissolved and welcomed Reza Pahlavi, Israeli society would turn on itself. It would be a mess. It's war and the military that is the real basis and cultural pull for keeping Israeli society together. I mean, it's a colonial society with all of these people from around the world who don't even speak the same language, who struggle to speak the modern Hebrew, and are just and the one thing that keeps them together is the military. And the military is much larger in Israel than it would need to be for a real country of its size for self-defense. The military is there for indoctrination purposes. Naftali Bennett understands this, and he's determined to keep Israel at war perpetually. It's just not a normal country. And as long as there is a Israel there that is a Jewish, kind of exclusively Jewish state, which is based on the concept of Jewish supremacy, not because it's Jewish, but because it's ethno-supremacist, there will be war in the region, and the U.S. will be pulled into those wars as long as it's there. And Iran understands that, and that's why there won't be a ceasefire tomorrow or next week.
And so, Scott Ritter was saying how there's no way that the U.S. and Israel is going to win this war, and that Iran has the ballistic missiles and they can shut down the oil, all the oil that's coming out of the Middle East. They have shut down the Strait of Hormuz effectively right now. So do you see this as the last gasp of the United States trying to control the Middle East? Is it going to be, do you think the U.S. and Israel will lose this and have to admit defeat? And what will that then make of the Middle East? What do you buy into that premise?
I mean, I think the question is, what does victory look like for the U.S. here? And
right.
No one can explain that in the administration or around the administration. No one. But to me, victory for Israel would be a complete calamity for the entire region and for Europe and for humanity, because it would mean a massive migration crisis, civil war, internal conflict, violence spilling out across borders, and it's already happening. So how do you spin victory out of that? We already saw what happened with Syria, the largest outflow of migrants since World War II. That was the success of the dirty war and regime change, which was cheered on by Western liberals. So now you have the whole European liberal class, the leadership at least, and the unelected Eurocrats like Ursula von der Leyen and Kaja Kallas, warmongering morons, have endorsed this war on Iran. And now what are they getting? They're getting a 50% spike today in liquid natural gas prices to Europe because Qatar has been forced to cut off supplies. And what did they already do, which you've covered a million times? They just sat there and accepted, practically cheered for the Ukrainians and the CIA to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline, cutting them off from cheap Russian natural gas. So they've abandoned and sacrificed their own public, just as the Gulf family dictatorships have, for their relationship with the US, which is now effectively being colonized by Israel through Trump. And so that European leadership is exposed as having no credibility. They have no idea what they have just supported. They can't describe what victory is. But a victory in Iran is a major loss for the European public and the European population, which is already suffering so much from the Ukraine proxy war. A victory in Iran, victory as defined by Israel, is a major loss for the region. It's a loss for Iraq. It's a loss for Lebanon. It's a win for ISIS. And it is a loss for the American public, who will soon feel the economic pinch as well. And I would like to ask, any of those Persian diaspora freaks who are celebrating assassinations in the streets of Westwood in LA and here in DC and Georgetown and doing the Trump YMCA dance, engaged in secular death cult activity in our streets. What's your plan for solving the affordability crisis in America? What do you even care about what actual Americans are going through? I mean, or do you only want to use our country as an aircraft carrier for your own, to settle your own scores back home? Because the Americans aren't out there protesting for this war like they were duped into doing back in 2002 and 2003 for Bush's war on Iraq. I used to see fairly large rallies of Americans, Republican evangelicals, who were had their brains fried by Fox News, waving flags, and they were singing Toby Keith, "I'll put a boot in your ass." It's raining, all this, raining down on you rhetoric. There's no Toby Keith singing going on right now. This is not what Americans want to be focused on. And Trump will deservedly pay a price. And if he's impeached for this, he'll actually finally be impeached for something real, which we all saw coming after Miriam Adelson, Netanyahu's pal, was seated directly behind him at his inauguration.
Okay. Max, I appreciate you making time for us today. Thank you very much. It's always great to get your input. You know more about this than anybody. You've written books about it. You were just in Iran last year.
I was in Iran in May of last year, a month before the
bombing,
Israeli assault. And yeah, I think we talked about it.
And what so you're making fun of, or you're insulting or deriding the Iranian diaspora, the people. I know some of those people, by the way, in Los Angeles, who are cheering on us bombing their country, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. No matter how much you hate the government of your country, the last thing you would want is for a superpower to just start bombing schools and police departments and apartment buildings, and which is what we're doing. And, like a lot of people hate Donald Trump here in the United States, like vehemently. They think he's a dictator and a criminal, but they wouldn't want Iran to start bombing us to get rid of Donald Trump. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But somehow these Iranians, these expat Iranians are all for us doing the exact thing to their own home country. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, me and you are very open about our anti-imperialist views and our anti-Zionist views, and these come from just anti-war, pro-peace sentiments that are very, I think, basic to human nature. But can you imagine what would happen to our credibility and how our own supporters come out to your shows? You fill every theater. What would happen if you started calling for Russia or China to bomb your own country? I mean, it would just be considered unacceptable. But that is really like the political and cultural essence of the monarchists. I'm not talking about the entire Persian diaspora here in the U.S. They have diverse views. Some of my closest friends live in Westwood, but I'm talking about the monarchists. That is really the essence of it. And the Miami Mafia that wants the U.S. to be starving Cuba, the country where their parents or grandparents came from, and bombing Cuba. The U.S. is imposing mass starvation on Cuba right now. Talked to some friends there. We're going to publish an interview from a journalist who was just there, who traveled across the entire island. People are being starved to death and dying excess deaths in Cuba silently, and people in Cuba call it Gaza without bombs, because the U.S., following the policy of Marco Rubio, this Cuban American who embodies the same mentality as those Persians who want the U.S. to bomb their country, Iran, is blocking oil and all fuel from getting to Cuba. Can you imagine what it's like to not have energy, to not have, you have to cook on wood in your apartment. You can't, there's not energy for water pumping, so disease starts to spread. There isn't energy for delivering food. Transportation is becoming impossible. Inflation is through the roof. So even though there is food in some stores, you can't afford it. And you can't communicate. So you just silently die. That's what's happening in Cuba. And that's the policy of the South Florida Cuban Gusano Mafia, who deserve nothing but contempt and see the U.S. as nothing but a vehicle for destroying the government that they hate in Cuba. But if we took on that mentality in the United States towards our own government, we would be seen as just like freaks,
yes,
by even our own supporters. Why can't these people just be normal? I mean, and I should also say, when I was in Iran, I met many people who do not support the Islamic Republic. Sat in their homes. I drank arak with them in their homes. So many of the Iranian public drinks at home. But they don't want war. I walked the streets of Tehran and Isfahan with my wife, Anya Parampil, who was not wearing hijab, just walking around like so many women there are not wearing hijab anymore. Where is their individual freedom when they're being bombed in their apartments? Where are the individual rights? Where's the woman life freedom of the over 150 girls in a girls' school who were murdered by the U.S.-Israeli Epstein coalition at their school 2 days ago. There should be a right to life. There should be a right to be free from war, free from fear. And as long as Iranians can't be free from warfare and having state terror imposed on them and sanctions, which are causing their own form of deprivation, then they're not going to be able to reform from within, and their society will be de-democratized. And if you don't believe me, take a look at the leadership that will fill the void in order to survive this Israeli-U.S. assault. They're going to be less moderate than Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who, as a female friend told me today, who is a supporter of the Islamic Republic and the Iranian Revolution, she would cite Khamenei's writings and his speeches in order to argue against more religious friends who were opposed to women's ambitions. And she is a university professor at the major university in Iran, University of Tehran, which is 70% female. Iran has more women's representation in its parliament and society than the United States. And women's representation and participation increased dramatically after 1979. So this isn't known to the West. I personally am not, I'm not Shia. I don't believe in the Shia ideology, but it's just something I witnessed there in another culture. And we're not going to be able to impose our own culture, which is clearly suffering from some serious degeneracy. We're not going to be able to impose it on them by bombing them. That's just a fact.
Max Blumenthal, thanks again. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on and giving us your insight. And I apologize again for being late. I messed up the times. You're very generous and gracious. Okay, pal. Great job, everybody. Check out Max Blumenthal's work at the Gray Zone. We all love the Gray Zone. And hope to see you and your wife someday soon, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Feels
Thanks
like
a lot,
forever.
Jimmy.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later.
Great seeing you.
All right, we're going to jump to Rumble, and we'll be right back in a few minutes. See you over at Rumble.